Hi, how are we doing today? Today is everything I watched in January, and I have to say, I have quite a long list of shows I watched, as you can tell. All of those happened in the first half of the month, though. I don't know what happened, but for like the first half of the month, I barely did anything but watch TV. I watched so much, and then in the second half, I just dropped off. I barely watched anything. I do have a lot am I currently watching as well, and I watched a couple of movies, nothing too exciting, so don't get your hopes up. So that is what we will be talking about today. Timestamps to the different categories will be in the description as well, so you can click around what you're most interested in. And yeah, let's get started with these seasons watched. Starting off with That's a Raven season 3, which is a rewatch. I've been making my way through this show as kind of like, I enjoy always just having like one show on. That's kind of like a childhood rewatch on Disney Plus mainly. And I went through That's a Raven and I had a lot of fun with season 1 and 2. Season 3, a bit more of a miss. This ended up being a 2-star. I just feel like this season was so boring. It's also a very long season. It's like 30 plus episodes. It's a lot. It doesn't do much with that. I do feel like there were some good episodes in here, but I just feel like, you know, they lost their momentum a little, like having to come up with so many different ideas for one season. None of them, like not all of them were hits, more misses than they were hits, sadly enough. I also felt like the humor is getting a bit stale. I feel like they were starting to use the same joke over and over again, and it's not that well. And also it's very obvious that throughout this season they kind of lose what to do with Corey because he is older, so like his typical like cute like little brother but kind of a menace situation can be going on anymore, and he has to be a bit more mature, but just it flounders a little bit. Then next I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 1. I originally started watching this, I don't remember when, I think November, October, I don't remember fully, but this is definitely a show that's been on my radar for a while and it took me a little to get into, but in January I got hooked. So yeah, I ended up giving this a 3-star because like I said, this did take a little to get into, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the antagonist this season. I thought he just wasn't that interesting, but I do definitely in the second half of the season things picked up for me and I started having a really fun time watching it, and I am a bit addicted to it. And then I did a rewatch of Exo Kitty season 1 in preparation for season 2 coming out later in the month. I watched this originally when it came out, but it's been a while so I felt like it would be fun to have a little refresher, especially because I remember in Hill watching the show. Like I binged it in like one sitting and I wasn't planning on doing that, and I did it again. I have to say that. I did give it 4 stars this time around. I didn't rate it last time, so I don't know what I would have thought of it then. But yeah, I'm really glad I decided to watch it. I still had such a blast watching it. I definitely needed to be reminded of some of kind of more the details within the dramas going on, but overall I think it's just really fun, very dramatic, but has a great friendship at its core. Like the friend group of this show is just so good and so compelling to watch. Very fun characters. It's very dramatic but fun, and I'm really glad I rewatched it because it made me so hyped for season 2. But first we gotta get to Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 2. This I flew through. Like I told you, I got bit by the bug. I got very hyped for this. I got very hooked. I do think this season the show found its footing and I just had so much fun watching it. I think Spike is phenomenal. Like at first, the first episode he appeared and I was like, okay, he's a fun character, but I don't know if I get like the hype. I do. I do. He's such a fun character, and he just brightens up every episode he's in. He's so good. And then also Oz is another like big addition to the cast this season. Also really like him. He's a nice balance out to the main friend group. I liked him. I do think it has some weaker episodes. I don't love every single one of them, but again, it's a lot of creative fun premises, and I just had such a blast with this. And now, if you don't want an unpopular opinion, just kind of like skip to the next show, because I watched X-Men 97 season 1, which I'm already gonna tell you I give 2 stars to. And I need you to hear me out, because do I think objectively this is a fantastic show? Yes. The animation is great, I think the acting is great, the messaging is great, the plots are great. It's just that it very painfully is not my thing. I discovered that as soon as I finished the first episode, but I'm trying to catch up like the Marvel shows because I got behind last year. I'm trying to stay on top of it this year, but I don't know but we're gonna try. But I already felt from like the first episode like this is just so not my thing, but I wanted to push through the entire season because I also saw this on a lot of best of the year list. So I was like, you know, I maybe I'm just like missing something, and I just, but no, just it really is not my thing, and that's why it's a 2 star, because I generally struggle to get through this. Let's move on to another negative review, but this time I think it's a bit more of a popular opinion. That's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series season 1. You know, I'm a fan of the books, but not a fan of the books, if that makes sense. Like, I like them, especially the first one. The series drops off a lot for me, and I'm one of those people that hates the last book. I know the camp is very divided on that. So when the show came out and it got a whole lot of like lukewarm responses to negative responses, even the main people I was seeing were people that were huge fans of the show. So part of me was like, okay, I'm not as hyped for this anymore as I was, but it's not like I am fully put off by it, because you know, a huge fan of the show is always gonna look, a huge fan of the books is always gonna look at an adaptation differently than just like a casual fan. So I was hoping it might have just been that, but no, the show is bad. And I hate to say that because I do think this starts off decently. I feel like there's a lot of changes made from the book that don't really make sense characterization wise. It just makes the characters very different people, and I really didn't like Bip in the show at all. I don't think she's a very likable character. She's pretty annoying, but I do feel like the way we get introduced to this is decent. I was like, okay, I'm excited to see the mystery unfold because we set things up very interestingly. But then I realized we only had like 2 episodes left, and we almost did no investigating, which meant that the actual reveals ended up being incredibly rushed. Did not make sense, especially didn't make sense for them to have stayed hidden for so long, because like it's right there. You just poke the one person and you know the answer. Like Pip did no investigating. I also don't think the acting was that great. So yeah, I just didn't like it. I do think that perhaps if this had a longer season, it could have been better, that it had more time to like slowly develop the mystery, have more of the threats pulled, have more of that investigating going on. But I also feel like maybe if it moved a bit quicker from the start, we also could have fit everything in. It just, this was just terribly written, that's all I have to say. Then let's talk about a favorite, and that's Interview with a Vampire season 2. Obviously 5 stars. Let's just immediately begin with that, because what else is there to say? So if you don't know, I watched Interview with a Vampire in November. Was obsessed with it the first season, and then I just was like, hey, just, you know, pace yourself a little. And then I also got very busy around the holiday season, so I just kind of forgot to watch anything, barely fit anything in December that I wanted to. And then this month I was like, let's just slowly trickle in again and like watch a few episodes, and then like pace yourself, and I like just bitched all day in one sitting again, because I really can't with the show. I love it so much. I again want to preface this where I say, just like what I did with season 1, this is my first introduction to Interview with the Vampire. I have not read the books, I have not seen a movie, I know nothing of the story, so this is, I'm just judging this as a show, not as an adaptation. I do want to add that because I know, especially this season, a lot has changed from the books, and I know some fans are pissed off about that. But I had a blast. I thought the show was so good, and I, like I said, loved season 1. I genuinely did not think they could top it. They did. The acting is just so spectacular. It's a great mix between horror and drama and somehow comedy. Although this one is less funny than the first season, but like it's kind of upped on the horror front, I believe. So it's so compelling, it's so devastating, and I just saw my eyeballs out so hard, especially at the last episode. Like, fuck me. And then next we have EXO Kitty season 2. I watched this all in one go on a release day. To be fair, this is a very quick watch. It's also very bingeable, just like in general. Yeah, it ended up being a 3-star for me, so a bit of a letdown compared to season 1. I just feel like, and I figured this out later, is the reason why this one didn't work for me is that I think the strongest element of the first season is a friend group, and it's a bit more scattered this season. It doesn't really feel like one strong group as it did in season 1. I feel like just in general we get less focus on the side characters this season, and therefore their storylines kind of feel a bit rushed and underdeveloped, and I wanted a bit more from that. I do believe it has the same amount of episodes as season 1, so technically there shouldn't be a struggle in that. The romance this season, oh, it was so good. Again, very high drama, but I definitely was one of those people who was like, I don't care what Kitty ends up with after season 1, but I have a vow now. I will not going off, I'm telling you. Then next up we have That's So Raven season 4, another rewatch. I finished it up and we really lost the plot. I apologize. There's literally an episode in this where Raven and Eddie try to date. That honestly shows you how much we've lost the plots. We've run out of ideas. And it's very clear to me this season, by the way, I give it a 2-star. But it's very clear to me Raven is very often like credited with like the whole 4-season arc for Disney shows because she is the first one to kind of do that. That's Raven is the first show on Disney Channel to run this long. Or at least live action. I don't know how animation is going. So therefore it's kind of like a marker in Disney Channel history. Like it's very obvious that it had not done that before because they just run out of so many ideas. And also feel like again the humor just falls flat. It's run its course. It just doesn't have a special spark as previous seasons did. Also, weirdly, this season focuses the most on Raven's dream to become a fashion designer, but she has the worst fashion in this season from the entire show. I don't know what went on there. But yeah, overall, I do think there are some good moments. I didn't fully hate this season, but it was again a slog to get through, and I generally had to push myself to keep watching so I could be done with it. And then lastly, for today, I finished up, I'm officially caught up with the MCU shows, and that's What If season 3. Thank goodness this show is over. And I hate to say that because I do think What If the concept could continue forever if they wanted to. They really could do that because there is an endless amount of possibilities. I just think Marvel really fumbled the ball with the show. I give it 2 stars. I've never been a big fan of What If. I do have to say I like season 2 more than season 1, and season 3 is kind of like in the middle of those two for me. They picked the most boring shit to do. They picked the most straightforward things you can think of, and even when you click on an episode and think, oh, this is kind of a fun concept, they just go with the most boring execution possible, and it's just so hard just kind of stay invested in it. So yeah, that brings us to my currently watching, which I always write down on my laptop, so for sure don't forget anything. Let's start with the 2 shows that I'm technically caught up on, so there's nothing more for me to watch, but you know, they're not finished. Starting off with the one that just stays here. It has a fun time here. That's Milo season 2. I genuinely don't know when it's gonna end, especially because we got the soundtrack for this season at the end of like in December. So I thought, okay, it's gonna end up for the new year. It didn't. And now they're advertising like, oh, season 3 is starting. And it's like, we're still in season 2. I don't know what we're doing. But yeah, season 2 still going strong, still enjoying it. And then, as I said, I'm trying to stay on top of the Marvel shows this year. So I'm also had started Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man season 1. Only 2 episodes are out. It has a weird release schedule. It's 2, then next week is 3, then again 3, and then another 2. That's such an odd release schedule, but I'm going with it. I'm having fun with it. Then the other ones, of course, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 3. If it was not to me just randomly slowing down on shows, there was the other day I'm sure I would have been more deeper down into Buffy. I don't know. There was one thing going on this season that I despise, and I want to know if you watch the show. If you can guess in the comments what it is. I do think it's kind of wrapping up a little bit where I am right now, but you of course don't know where I am. But there was just something going on this season that I despise, and I just genuinely am curious to see if anyone can guess. Then I also started watching Mayfair Witches. I'm on the 1st season. This is not as good as Interview with a Vampire, nowhere close. And you know, to be fair, I also have heard not that great things about this, but you know, I've also heard it's a kind of same universe. Obviously it's also by the same, it's also from AMC, and then it is a book from Anne Rice, who also wrote Interview with a Vampire. So I don't know if that's just the only connection between them, or they're actually in the same universe. They're just like very loose threads. But this is so difficult to follow. Like I'm confused constantly, and at the same time nothing is happening. It's so boring. I don't know. And then because I want to stay up to date with Marvel, I told you that this year, that's my one big goal. So I started watching Marvel's Daredevil season 1. Technically I already started this a couple of years ago, and I just fell off with it. I don't remember why, and I just continued watching it. I think I watched 2 episodes, and I watched 3 episodes. I'm on episode 7, I believe. It's not like super far in, but I have not watched like the Netflix voice, I'll call it, for the Marvel series, or like the Defenders shows, and Daredevil Born Again is coming sooner than I can watch these. I can already tell you that, but I'm gonna try so hard to be caught up with this before that show comes out, because I'm actually quite excited about that, and I'm avoiding like trailers and everything because I obviously don't want to be spoiled for this. And then we do have 2 rewatches of FC the Computer season 4. this is just happening, rerunning on TV, and I'm watching it as episodes come out. I'm not in charge of how fast it goes, so you know the drill. Let me have it. There's Anubis season 1, which is also a rewatch. I'm watching this with my mom, so she dictates the speed. I don't, but I'm having such a blast. I love the show so much. And then we have arrived to the movies I watched this month, and I'm gonna go rapid fire because I don't have a lot to say about this. Only 2 of them are actually movies. Starting off with Kamak mag ik even, which came out 2024, and this is kind of like a comedy show that just wraps up the entire year of 2024, and I thought it was funny. I don't think it's as good as other years. It's not his best year, but it was still funny. Next, we have Vergeet Barbara, the musical, which came out in 2023. I gave 5 stars. It was a rewatch. I love it. It's a feel-good musical, and I can feel it. It feels good, man. This was on TV for the holidays, and I rewatched it because of that, and it was just such a blast. Then we have Lieve Skere AI, which came out in 2025. I like dwelled about for days. Again, it's comedy show, so I'm technically not gonna review it rated, but I really like the show he did about DNA. To be fair, it's also a topic I'm very interested in, but I felt like it was a very nuanced take on everything. It gave positive, negatives, everything going on. This just sucked out of AI's dick, and I could not stand it. Then next we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which came out in 2018. I gave 5 stars to it as a rewatch. And do you want to know something abysmal? When I went to watch this, I was like, watched again, I noticed that I originally gave it 4 stars. Who am I? I don't agree. I think that this is generally one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years. I just think it's brilliant. The animation is beautiful. The storyline is very intriguing. I love Miles as a protagonist. All the different spider people are just so fun. And I think it is just so good. But I rewatched it because I finally watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which came out in 2023, and I gave 5 stars to again. I like this more than the first one. I did, and I did not see that coming at all. Again, it has everything I loved about the first one, except the plot is much bigger and grander and more interesting. It is also like the different Spider people we get in this one so interesting. I love the way it blends art styles. It does it even more than the first one. The first one obviously also does that, but I feel like those art styles kind of lean together a bit more, so it's not always as obvious. But in this movie, it's incredibly obvious because we go so many different routes. I also like the focus a bit more on Gwen this movie. I mean, it's definitely still Miles' story, but we do have a bigger focus on Gwen, and I really like it because I think Spider-Gwen is like amazing. And yeah, visually stunning, story was great characters. I laughed. I had a couple of tears. The only thing I would complain about is that it ends on a cliffhanger and it should not be alive. So yeah, that is everything I have for you today. I hope you had fun. Let me know in the comments what you thought of any of these things. If you've watched them, so some of your favorite things you watched in the month of January. My throat hurts from all the talking, so I'm just gonna leave you, and I'll see you next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've played it cool.